We're going to start with Psalm 91, and I'm reading out of the George Lamsa translation. He who dwells in the protection of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from vain gossip. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you shall trust. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flies by day, nor for the conspiracy that spreads in darkness, nor for the pestilence that wastes at noonday. Thousands shall fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you behold the reward of the wicked. For thou, O Lord, art my trust. Thou hast established thy habitation in the highest. There shall no evil befall you, neither shall any plague come near your dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. They shall bear you up in their hands, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the viper and adder. You shall trample underfoot the lion and the great serpent. Because he has loved me, therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation.
And the reading from Emmett Fox is titled Our Fortress. Observe that the poem opens by announcing the irresistible power of prayer. Then, in order to bring home the fact that this law applies to us, and that by no possibility could we be an exception, it now changes over to the first person and makes us say I. It compels us to voice the I am. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. The Lord means God. How can knowledge be a presence? Secular knowledge, which is intellectual, cannot. The true knowledge of God is an actual experience, not a thing of the head, but of the heart. And this is indeed a presence. As a general rule, people contact this real self only vaguely and occasionally. Then, if they pray regularly, the gleams of intuition gradually strengthen into a definite sense of the presence of God. In Him will I trust. However worried or depressed you may be, however full of doubts and misgivings, still the fact that you are praying means that you have at least enough faith for that. The faith to go on praying in the midst of doubts about results is the tiny grain of mustard seed that Jesus says is sufficient for practical purposes. Declaring, "In Him will I trust," means that you have now determined to trust by ceasing to worry and fear. This is the legitimate and spiritual use of the will.
Until today, I had forgotten that Sister Pepper regarded Psalm 91 as one of the most powerful prayers of protection and for protection in the Psalms. I did not see that when I was given the title today, but it fits so well. We're going to talk about living the spiritual life, but living it forwards and backwards. And the topic came about this week. I was talking with a fellow who was helping settle an estate of a close friend of his. And he told me the story of his life, having been in the military during Vietnam, how his whole life he's been both fascinated and repulsed by all things military strategy. He says, I have books and books, shelves of books and military strategy, but every time I reach to read one, I end up putting it back before I get more than a chapter written, and I couldn't understand it. And recently, he told me, I went to a psychic, and here she is telling me of all the lives I've had where I was a warrior and a romancer. And that my whole life, my whole concept of self, I'm using my words here, was of a warrior and a romancer, and that this was my life to learn that there was a different way of living, and yet the attraction is still there to me. And I thought about that, and I remembered other people who've told me stories where this life is so intertwined with something from the past. A hypnotherapist told me of a client who lived always short of breath, always in pain in his trunk, and no doctor could figure out why. And he had an inkling and did a past life, and the past life that showed up was a Roman general who, in a fit of pique, had his soldiers kill women, innocent women, children, innocent men. And when they had accomplished this, the general, realizing the evil that he had done, threw himself on his own sword. Sister Pepper would quote Jesus sometimes talking about past lives. When he came upon someone and says, I knew you from afar. She said, no, wasn't saying that I knew you when you were 10 miles distant. I knew you long before you were ever in this life. Those of you familiar with the lift on therapy process know that so often to heal someone now, we have to heal beings or people or relatives from the past. It was not long ago that Father Richard Rohr, in one of his writings, talked about the revelation he had. That not only could he pray now for the future, but since God was everywhere and had no time, he could also pray for things in the past. And of course, in doing that, prayer answered, we have no idea what it would have been had there not been prayers in the past. But we here on a spiritual walk need to remember that being close to God is not a momentary thing or a future-only thing. We need to clear out our past, and we can walk backwards to do that. We can, reference Psalm 91. If we can let go the intellect and allow ourselves to know the divine in the most intimate, experiential way, we can be freed from the constraints of man-made, man-understood time, which only goes forward. We can, through lift, through hypnotherapy, as this other case was, because with the hypnotherapy they could heal that past life. Through many other ways, or even simply through God's divine power. Wash away, receive absolution, receive forgiveness, let go of whatever in our past is keeping us now from moving farther, more clearly into a future with God embedded in us and we embedded in God. There's no defined way that we must heal this. But I also know of no way we can move forward if we have anchors in our past. Be it, in the one case, having been a soldier with lots of women on the side for many lives. Be it one life where the soul is responsible for a true catastrophe of other humans. I had a client whose family has oral histories of generations back how every female child has been abused. Up to this one. With this one, we got there in time. At least I hope we did. She has no recollection. And we healed so that past is no longer part of your future. There's no one answer to how to do it, but there is the opportunity at all times, because God always welcomes us home, and God always welcomes us to heal. But we do have the responsibility ourselves to make it happen, to allow it to happen, to invite God in to help us to heal whatever burdens, whatever karma, whatever tenfold return it is that we're carrying from past existences. Because it may not be just as we would understand it here on this earth. Could be a different universe, could be different lifetimes in different locations, could be different timelines. We don't know we can't know all the ins and outs of this wonderful divine who's allowed each of us to become a part of him, or it, or her. We also have the free will to decide to heal that which is a black mark against our walk in the past. Just as we can heal this life, what we do this life. I read in an agony column not long ago, I think it was Dear Abby, I can't remember for sure, a man who wrote in apropos of a writer in the column who'd been dealing with, as I would call a sociopathic mother or something. And he wrote in saying that at some point earlier in his life, he had looked at the behaviors he was doing, the choices he was making, and concluded, and what he felt about it, I would infer, concluded that he was probably a sociopath. He had the same internal experience as is reported in papers, clinical papers about sociopaths. Now, if you know anything about sociopaths, or psychopaths, or narcissists for that matter, or even borderline personality, you're not going to see them in a clinical setting because everything's fine with them. They feel on top of the world because they can manipulate everybody to get what they want. And here's someone who's looking at himself saying, I see my behaviors, I look to be a sociopath. And I don't like seeing that in me. He wrote on to say that he does not have an intrinsic, built-in conscience, which is typical of people who are on those personality disorders. He does not automatically know right from wrong. He said what he had to do was sit down and write a description of ethical behavior that he would subscribe to as his way of living a righteous, my words here, an ethical life, even though he did not have what most of us do, a built-in conscience. He said, he closed with, he continues to live according to these principles. And he's satisfied that he is doing right. Well, each of us has that level of freedom to go back and heal, to acknowledge even here where our shortcomings are, and to heal them with God's help. Now, Sister Pepper used to say, God answers prayer. He does work miracles for healing, but sometimes it's in a doctor's office. Her point being, don't rely on just one path and refuse all others. Rely on, as Emmett Fox talks about it, that gut level experience of God within you to help you make the way so that your life backwards can become as positively representative of the God you love and follow as the spiritual walk forward that you're engaging in right now. So, in your walk, be open to nudgings, to understandings of where you need to walk backwards for healing. In AA, they encourage each person walking the path to, where possible without causing more damage, make amends to wrongs you've done to others. Now, going back into past lifetimes, past universes, we don't have the hands to change things around, but we do have the ability to pray backwards, as Father Ward talks about. We do have the ability to forgive ourselves backwards as well. So, sort of to put a not too fine point on it, to enhance our movement closer and closer to the divine in our spiritual walk, we must allow ourselves to become aware of where in past healing is needed, forgiveness is needed. And we need to disempower the tragedies, the catastrophes, the errors we have committed in our past existences, the ones which are obstructing us now in our spiritual growth, handicapping us as we move into the future, forward, to find ourselves ever closer to emulating divine love and divine good on this earth, and ideally in all the future lives and future universes and future timelines where we, the spirit within us, end up residing. It's such a challenge that can be, and what fun we can have. Dear God, we give you thanks for providing this opportunity for this family of seekers to gather together, to share, to love, to pray together, to heal together, to grow together. We thank you for always providing the way, for guiding each and every one of us here and away to a better and better walk with you. We thank you for the wisdom that is shared as we explore ideas together. We thank you for the caring that is shared, even though many of us are so far physically distant from one another. And we thank you for watching over us, our lives, our work, helping us be ever better in lifting the world up and making it a better place. For all the good we witness, all the good you bring into our lives, dear God, we say thank you, thank you, thank you. And we all say,
Amen.
Amen.